Hang on, what have I done? Hello, all you hardcores out there. How are you doing? It's Porky here from Porky's Corner. Oh, hang on, I've got a fight zone, actually. There we go, Porky's Corner. Dennis did come to see me, so he's had his free plug. I'll put him back in his box. Right.
You like Dennis?
Yeah, Dennis was a good man. He came to see me when I was at death's door. A lot's gone on, Julian, in the last 24 hours. I'm in shock. I'm just going to let you roll with it today. Where do we start here with this?
I mean, you can start with so many aspects, can't you? Who was leading the corner? What was the game plan? Was it really as close as people are trying to report? And if it wasn't as close as what people are reporting, why are they reporting it as such? Why are they saying it was anybody's fight after 9-10 rounds? You could go on and on and on. I mean, I'd like to touch on Fraser Clark a little bit later, the one guy who's just like right at the top of my list now in terms of how he spoke. But first of all, I think what I'd like to say, and this is a bit tongue-in-cheek actually, Russell, is you're going to get a lot of your regulars on today or tomorrow talking about the fight, breaking it down. Everybody's got favorites. I absolutely love Rico. I love Richard. I like when Kent's on. I like when Terry's on. If anybody finds them a little bit going to put you to sleep, just turn off and wait for Rico or wait for Kent or anything like that. Don't feel the need to troll and reply to about 30 comments saying I'm absolutely as boring as you know what. Because it's
Julian,
a bit
don't
weird,
take
actually,
it to
when
heart
you do.
in social media. Don't take it to heart.
No, I'm not, mate. I just find it weird. I find it strange that you'd go to the effort of doing that and setting up fake. Anyway, the fight. When we broke it down, and I actually did a little bit of a breakdown myself. When we broke it down, I think we were pretty close to effectively what went on. I thought it'd be moments of drama. Joshua would have performed a lot better than he did previously, but ultimately would be well beat. I thought he might get stopped this time. You know, it doesn't make you wrong if you think a guy's going to get stopped if he just gets well beat on points. It just means, you know, it went a little bit longer than you thought. So for me, when the fight really started to grate on me, and when I'm talking about the fight, I'm talking about the reporting of it, when the commentary's saying he's got 2 rounds each and he's got this and he's got that. So I'm in a little group with a set of lads who are no family, they know boxing, they're good boxing people. So after about 5-6 rounds, we either had it, or every round to Usyk, or maybe one to Joshua at a push. And I'm watching this and I'm listening to people saying it's close, so-and-so's got Joshua ahead. And I just thought, either I'm watching the wrong fight, I'm reading the wrong fight, or they're actually trying to push this as much as they can to justify a Joshua victory, should it go to the scorecards. So I started to get a bad taste in my mouth. But one thing for me, as a coach, and I don't mean to insult anybody when I say this, it was so clear to me that every time Joshua was throwing that big right hook to the body, Usyk, as a southpaw, was doing that perfect maneuver. He was turning the left elbow in, and he was catching 9 out of 10 Joshua's shots to the body. It was blocking them brilliantly, actually. It's fantastic coaching and fantastic implementation of that tactic. But every time he blocked, there was a comment and a ooh and a ha that Joshua was having success to the body. And I'm thinking, is nobody picking up on what's going on in this fight? I mean, you could see that razor-sharp jab of Usyk in the first few rounds, and it was jolting Joshua's head back.
You feel that jab wasn't connecting a lot? It were kind of like going like that and not really hitting him a lot of the time. We're drifting in front of his eyes, wasn't it?
It was hypnotising, and then when he needed to, on that 4th or 5th, he was popping the jab between his eyes. So I thought Usyk was well in control. Joshua was at least trying to do the right thing. The one thing I would like to point out, again, as a coach, is Joshua's hand position. I mentioned in the first Usyk fight, his hand position, his head position is all wrong. For someone who's got such fantastic credentials that he has and the pedigree, it's almost like his guard is almost like a novice boxer or a white-collar fighter. And then clearly they've changed the hand positions to the point that he's almost holding his gloves on his chest now, right in front of Usyk's eye line. And I thought, whose idea is it for Joshua to hold his gloves in that position right directly in front of Usyk's eye line? He's going to see absolutely everything coming. He can see everything coming from there. So I thought, I just found it all bizarre. Massively exciting 9th round. I don't think Usyk was hurt at any point. I think maybe it was a little bit tiring. You know, he had to dig deep into his reserves. Joshua let some great shots go. He really pushed hard. And then he got bossed again for the last 3 rounds. I've got no issue with Anthony Joshua's performance whatsoever. I have an issue with anybody who thought that was a close fight. I mean, where do you get 115, 113 for
Steve
Joshua
Bunce,
from?
Steve Bunce, right. Steve Bunce has given that, I think, to keep the money in the Joshua Fury fight, Tyson Fury. It's a big fight, isn't it? And they don't want to say, well, Joshua got tonked and won 2 rounds. They're going to say he won 7. So Bunce has topped his round scoring up by 5. But how? He's supposed to be a guy that's been a journalist nearly 40 years. I'm very shocked by that score. But he's a Bricktop man, isn't he? He's employed by Bricktop. So he's going to have to keep the money in that fight. They want Joshua. If there's had a loss, well, it was a split decision and could have gone either way. Depends what you're looking for. You've seen that Glenn Fieldman. Rob Tebbett had the balls to put it on him, but Glenn Fieldman went to speak to the supervisor. I would have said, no, I'm not speaking to the supervisor. I'm asking you. That's who I'm asking you. How did you get 7 rounds to 5? You. Show me. But he didn't. He went, lip service, or speak to him. The day with Dickie Bowes on, £12,000 flying out there first class. A week in the sun in Dubai. And they come out with a scorecard like that. And I think the other judge, Steve Gray, I think he bottled it. He bottled it. He was there to do damage to Usyk. They tried to rob Usyk. You know that, don't you? Everything went on all week, from the gloves to the ringside to the canvas. That canvas was wet through.
It was shocking. That outer circle was absolutely shocking. I think the irony was towards the middle and end of the fight that the canvas was also upsetting Joshua and it was affecting his ability to get balance as well.
Wiping it then, didn't they? You wanted to wipe it then, didn't they? They weren't wiping it early.
So we've got a fight which is absolutely massive, of massive magnitude, and they can't get the canvas right. Am I actually hearing that? Unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Biggest fight in world.
Biggest fight in world, massive night, spotlight. We've got 2 questionable decisions leading up to the fight. We've got 4-minute rounds. And this is like supposed to be the cream of professional organized boxing. And this is what we've got. I thought it was shocking. In terms of the, what you say about Steve Bunce and all these guys, it's in everybody's best interest, and I'll talk about Eddie Hearn in a second, everybody's best interest to make Fury and Joshua seem competitive. That's in everybody's best interest. Now, what Eddie Hearn did, and this is a real clever guy, because Eddie Hearn's been involved in marketing and advertising before, you know, that's part of his background and the part of the machine that is Matchroom. Anybody knows in advertising, obviously I went to design school, studied advertising, design, graphics, etc. If you repeat something between 6 and 8 times, there's like a high percentage of consumers, it plants it there. Yeah. Now, what we've heard Eddie Hearn say is split decision against an all-time great.
And if we repeat it enough, it sinks into the masses' heads.
Yes, and this is what I said to you about before. All the time I talk about history revisionists. So what we're going to get now, there's going to be, give it a few weeks. Well, actually, I watched it back, and it's a lot closer than I thought it was.
Well, it depends what you're looking for. Could have gone either way. People start backtracking, don't they, on what they've said?
Yeah, in 10 years' time, it'll be a bad decision. Joshua will have been robbed. So people are revising history, and they're actually insulting what we're watching. What I did see, which was, I don't know if you caught this, Peter Fury tweeted during the fight on Sky Sports. It was fucking brilliant. It was brilliant. And Peter Fury was just really honest. I can't quote him verbatim. It was something along the lines of, he's getting well beat, and the corner's telling him, once again,
4-0 up.
You're 4-0 up. who are these people? To quote Billy Connolly, who are these people? Who are they? Who are these people who are involved? And this is Robert Garcia, former world champion, top coach. What are these people saying to fighters in between rounds? I mean, AJ, you really got to empty the tank now because you're well down, mate. That'd be me. You're getting beat. You're behind on points. We're coming up to the mid rounds, and you're already looking like you need a knockout. Tell the fighter the truth, but we know, don't we, what he's surrounded with and what he's surrounded by in camp, and everybody knows it, and it showed because we can move on to this shortly. Sorry, but there won't be many fighters grab a mic and all the coaching team just sit there and let them do it. Are they terrified of being cut off in terms of the pay?
Yes.
Or are they shit scared at Joshua because he has another side to him?
Right. Let me just back up a little bit, and I'll explain how. I can't speak for Peter Fury. I do get the impression that Peter Fury is a no nonsense sort of person. I've been in his company many times. I don't hear a lot of shit spoken in his company around him. I see people that do chat it, but they don't chat it in his company. He just, you know me, I'm quite loud and bounce about, and that I'm not as loud around Peter Fury. I like to, you know what I mean? But he knows what I am, and I'm cheeky, aren't I? But I'm big-hearted, so I'll probably get away with it, don't I? I think that Peter's been watching that at home, and he's seen that, and he's thought, well, I wouldn't deal with something like that. I'd be saying, Huey, what the F are you doing here? You're 4-0 down. Get a move on. Have a fight. Yeah. That's how he'd speak. All right. They're not going to say that. But let me tell you this. Joshua's on massive money. So they'll be on massive money. They'll not be on 10%. They're not going to be like, and Carl Froch will back me up on this. So all you trolls, tweet him. Carl Froch paid Robert McCracken from day one when they were fighting the Michael Kinnocks, the OJ Abrams. You remember them?
Mm-hmm.
They were fighting them at your call. They were giving him 10%. They were giving him 10% still when they were fighting George Groves for millions of pounds. Robert McCracken, when he left Carl Froch, was a multi-millionaire. He'd earned a lot of money with Carl Froch. Robert Garcia, he won't be on 10%, like McCracken weren't on 10% with Joshua. Joshua's about money. But let me tell you this. Garcia would have been on probably £1 million. He'd have been on $1 million for that.
Yeah,
he wouldn't have been on 5 million like he should have been, because don't forget, trainers are on 10%, aren't they? But he's not been there from the beginning, so he's not really entitled to that 10%, in my opinion. But he's entitled to his pay, innit?
Yeah.
So he'll have been thinking, do you know what? I ain't got control of this camp from day one. Everybody and the dad's taking him up pads. I've heard he's just walking around like a lost soul. He's a different age group to Joshua, different country. I don't see a connection. He might be a bit technical. He might say a few things that Joshua picks up on, because Joshua's a sponge, but he's soaked up that much in his head. He's confused. He must think, who's his trainer? Who's steering ship? Because they're heading for Titanic, aren't they? And guy in bird's nest things lost his binocs. That's what's happened. They're heading for iceberg, aren't they?
Yep.
We've all seen it happening. And I said to you, and I said it on here, if he gets beat, I've said this before, I'll say it again, watch him go into meltdown. And you went, yeah. I said, oh no, it'll happen, because he's carrying a lot on his shoulders, isn't he? But he's wanted that from day one, and they've milked it and had millions of pounds. So don't be crying in press conferences, going like that, trying to play victim, because what he did was bad. But the board won't take his license off, and they'll not put him in front of the board. They're already playing now the old mental health one, and they want to get him a sports psychologist, and he's going to take time out, and he's not himself. You can see how it's going now, the old damage limitation, can't you? They're going to wheel Eddie Hearn out. They've already wheeled Spencer Oliver out. Old Juggy is. He had him 4-2 up, by the way, after 6 rounds. Glenn Fieldman had him 5-1 up. All the company men, they're all saying the right things, aren't they? They all want a piece of the pie. It's about the pie, and they all want a piece of it. They don't care for Joshua. They don't care for Eddie Hearn. They care for themselves. That's why they're called woodpeckers. They're woodpeckers, these people. Leechers, mate. And you've seen leeching like you've never seen before. You heard him reel them all off. You know, he's got a team of 47.
Unbelievable.
That's before family and friends have flown over there. They probably needed a private jet, jumbo jet for him. But do you remember when Carl Froch had Robert McCracken at Lennox Lewis College in Clapham? Ask Joe Gallagher, ask Peter Fury, ask anybody. There were only Robert McCracken and Joe and Carl Froch in bedsits upstairs, weren't they? 2002. They put the graft in, didn't they? They built the bond. They went from day one to the end. Joshua couldn't do that because he had that many people in his hero, Eddie Hearn as well. Hey, listen, Eddie Hearn will have had something to do with McCracken going. I've heard he did. They've all had the say. They've all had the say. It's about money. When they were earning and knocking people out, Robert McCracken was best thing since sliced bread. Once Vladimir set about him, cracks appeared, didn't they? Whisperers. Everybody's an expert after the fact, aren't they? That's just my opinion, mate. I think he got his just deserves. We've been calling it for months. He was kicking and screaming to fight him the first time, wasn't he? Kicking and screaming. He was that worried. He went to watch him fight Del Boy, didn't he? Kicking and screaming. He didn't want to fight Usyk. They didn't want that fight. They delayed it years. You know that, don't you?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Who would want that fight? This is the thing.
Yeah. All this about... Go on, sorry.
No, go on, mate.
All this about his head's gone and he's under a lot of pressure and all this. The guy's earned 225 million net, and that's before last night's pay. They fly him to Dubai in a jet. They put him in that 7-star hotel with butlers, him and his friends, don't they? You've got Spencer Oliver coming out today going on about how he does everything. He does loads for charity and this and that and blah, blah, blah. You know, when you're at that stage of the game, you can give millions to charity and it come off your tax. That's one thing. Second thing you can do, he can say to Dubai Tourism, yeah, when you fly me over next time, can I bring 10 young kids, boxers, amateur boxers, make me look good? Yeah, they'll do all that. He's not paying for all that. He's not poking out in his pocket. I don't want to hear all that crap about charity this and mental health that. Don't go down that charity route with me and mental health route. Because if he'd have got that decision last night, we wouldn't be talking about this, would we?
No.
Because until they said Usyk split decision winner, dummy come out afterwards, didn't it? There were no dummy coming out before. They were high-fiving. Then his head went because he realised, oh, what are we doing here? He made it about him and not Usyk. But when they said to Usyk, they went scorecards out, Usyk was there, and they went, Anthony Joshua, your first judge. Usyk, I saw a chink in his armour then, like he thought he was getting a bit upset. He thought he was being shafted. Now, his manager or whatever spokesman's come out now and he said it was for two things why he cried at the end. One was the relief because he thought he was being shafted. Then he was thinking about his countryman. But I think he thought he'd been shafted. He wouldn't have been thinking about anything else other than being shafted when they're reading scorecards out. And it looked like the fix were in, didn't it? And that's why he cried them tears of emotion. Look, they wanted to job him, you know, yesterday. It were on cards, wasn't it? There were low blows and that referee were weak. He never even gave him a warning for that low blow, did he, Joshua? And that Matthew Macklin said it was borderline. And then when replay come on, 5 minutes later, they all went, they backtracked. He was on his nuts. He was on his cup, wasn't it?
But does Usyk look the type of guy who's just going to like moan and bitch about getting it on the belt? 15
seconds, he was straight back in there like a warrior. What did Bernard Hopkins do against Kawasaki because they were knackered? He took 2 5-minute breaks, didn't he?
5 minutes, mate, exactly.
Usyk didn't do that, did he? Because he's been in the fire, hasn't he? You know, like we spoke about the fire, Teddy Atlas.
Yeah.
I did firefighters. Billy Joe had never been in a firefight, had he? Till Canelo.
No.
Usyk's been in them since he was 9-year-old, training in snow. They had him running up hills, didn't they, bare feet and all that, told to shut up complaining. They weeded them out, didn't they, 50 joining a club, down to about 5 or 6 of them. That's how they do it over there. Isn't they pretty brutal, aren't they? So they've been in firefights from being kids. They know about hardship, don't they? When Dave Allen went over there training Usyk, well, I'm assuming it's the same training camp, for the one he's just done, he were keeping on straw, wasn't he, with horses? I mean, what's all that about? That's craziness. He's obviously a freakish guy, isn't he, Peter?
But this is the thing, you said a word pressure, and I understand that Joshua's under the spotlight and is globally recognized. Because I just mentioned about pressure, and I don't want to turn it into a socialist
Pressure
thing.
is when you can't feed your kids or clothe them.
That's what I was just going to say. I get sick of hearing this about he's under pressure and these celebrities, they have to go to rehab because they're under meltdown. You don't know what it's like. You know what pressure is? Pressure is well, I won't say, someone very close to me who they've paid all the bills and not foods, a £62 a week to live on right now, £62 a week to live on, suffers genuine mental health, has other family members who suffer genuine mental health. That's pressure. Pressure is what people are going through right now. Pressure is not having your ass wiped by 30 assistant coaches, having
47.
everything you want. That's not pressure. Pressure's, if you want to talk about pressure in boxing, pressure is these young fighters who do a 12-hour shift in a factory. And then before that, they get up for work, do a 5-mile run, they do 12 hours in a factory. They come home to children. I've seen it firsthand. And then they go to the gym, then they train, and then they have to fight, and then they have to claw ticket money all weekend, every single weekend, every weekend. That's pressure. Pressure's not doing what these guys do. They're privileged. They're absolutely privileged. Yes, they do a very dangerous thing. All professional fighters, all combat sports do a dangerous thing. And I get tired of people saying, you're just hating. It's speaking the truth. You're all being sold this absolute nonsense that it's really, really tough. Did it look tough for you in fight week? All those guys eating and drinking, fully expensed in those palatial hotels, laughing and joking and in front of the camera. They're all on freebies, mate. I'm a bitter, not at all. I could have been there. I could have had it. I don't want it. I don't want to live like that. I like living in my own little world, in my own little private with my family. I'm not interested in that. I'm just talking about it like you, because you're like you. I can see you're getting wound up. I get wound up because we're passionate boxing people, and the one thing I want, which is every time I get ripped to bits on social media, I want one thing: a level playing field, because I believe sport should be a level playing field. I believe when two fighters or two teams or whatever, two individuals go into a sporting contest, it starts at zero. That's what I believe. You should have the same everything. It should be balanced, and that makes it exciting. It makes it competitive. But the whole media, they don't get access if they don't play to the tune of the promoters and everybody else. They don't get access. And I think they're just killing the sport. And what I will say, I thought Joshua performed as well as Joshua can perform. There were some technical deficiencies in there. The coaching is all over the place. You've got too many people talking rubbish to him. But Joshua
in the corner between rounds, because they were talking over each other, weren't they?
It's just horrendous.
I wasn't the one man in corner after everything that happened last time. He was like a repeat of it, same fight, wasn't it?
Well, I'll have you a bet. Well, there's two parts of that. There's not a bet. You won't take the bet because you know I'm right. Robert Garcia will be gone.
Yeah, he's gone. He took his money and going him, innit?
He'll be gone. He's done. And if he's not done now, they'll do one more. But the second thing, I know people say to me, it's a business, Jules, it's a business. How many times have I come on here, Russell, and said to you, Anthony Joshua, after getting beat by Usyk, needs to go back to the drawing board, drop the stadium fights, drop the massive spotlight, and have some hard 10-rounders and learn his craft. Don't bitch and complain and say he's got L plates on, he's a working pro, and then put him in with elite fighters and watch how he gets.
And then start complaining about pressure when you're banking millions.
And then Eddie Hearn turns around last night in one of the interviews I said and says, what we're going to do is we're going to just drop the profile a little bit. We're going to drop the stadium fights and get AJ fighting regular. I'm like,
is that what he's talking about? And then he said this morning that they're going to have a break.
I'll find it. Like last night, he said something about we need to get him out regular. Look, he's done all these stadium fights, high profile fights. We need to effectively drop the spotlight, drop the pressure, and get him learning his craft. I'm like, you should have fucking done that when he turned pro. That's what you should have done. And you're now doing it when he's been once again exposed. It doesn't matter because you've all earned a shitload of cash from it. And I guess the danger doing it how I would have done it, developing the fighter, the danger is he might have never got to that position anyway. He might have got beat before then if he'd have had tougher tests. But he's been expertly steered. I still like Joshua. I don't care what anybody says. I still like Joshua. I like Fury. He's been expertly steered, but now the wheels have come off. And the narrative is he lost a split decision to an all-time great. It could have gone either way. You know, Steve Bunce had him ahead, so had him ahead. Eddie's saying, I had it 115, 113, but you know, and it's just like it leaves a bad taste because it should have never got to this position. But you know, and I know, right? This talk of having 10 rounders and learning, there's going to be one fight, and then they're going to start the drum roll for the Fury fight, selling it on the back of, you know, it could have gone either way with Usyk, you know, and we've got a new and improved Anthony Joshua.
We lost a split to the number one pound for pound guy in the world who Fury won't fight. That's what he said.
Yeah, and that effectively is it. And the one thing I will say, and you might agree, you might disagree, and I like Usyk, I think he's a fantastic fighter, but I've got zero doubt that Fury would be way too much for Usyk. He'd just be too big. Too big.
Well, let me just say this to you, right? Fury is 4 stone heavier, right? So that's like putting in Billy Joe Saunders and Usyk. Am I right?
Effectively. Yeah, 100%.
Skill set's very similar. Billy can nearly fight all styles. Usyk's probably got more to his game than Bill, but Usyk and Billy, 4 stone difference. So Tyson, that's the difference between the 3 guys. But Usyk's more than capable of beating him, but you need a bit more pop in your punches to beat Tyson, don't you?
And anybody who turns around and says, well, Joshua's 6'6" and 18 stone. Joshua's 6'6" and 18 stone with about 30% of the skill set of Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury's 6'8", 6'9", and 19 stone with a completely different skill set. And we did see just moments of Joshua's physicality causing Usyk problems. His skills didn't cause him any problems whatsoever. His power didn't really cause him any problems. It was just the size of him. At some point, you saw Usyk take a few deep breaths, and he struggled containing Joshua in about the 8th and the 9th, and it was purely based on size. But when you've got Tyson Fury in the opposite corner, you have a completely different scenario. And Usyk is good enough to beat Fury. He's not big enough. So when anybody says, what do you mean he's not big enough? Sometimes it's just the way it turns out, isn't it? It's a bit like, you know, Evander Holyfield in the first fight with Riddick Bowe. Bowe had some good skills. I mean, I know Holyfield won the second fight, but Bowe had great skills, and it just was a bit too big for Holyfield before Holyfield grew into that heavyweight. But I just think Fury's too much for him, but everybody wants to see it. Will they make the fight? I've got no idea. We all know Tyson Fury is going to box again, but what does, I guess we're talking about Joshua. I know we're jumping around. We're all a little bit animated right now because it's fresh from last night. More information will come out, but ultimately you're going to be doing with Joshua what he should have done right from day one, and that's let the guy really learn his craft. But the problem we've got now, Russell, does he want to learn his craft when he's 200?
Horse is bolted on it now.
Yeah, it's too late, mate. And as I said,
well, look at Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury don't want to fight now for 30 grand, does he?
Unbelievable.
In England, he's had offers over $1 million abroad, so he's in no man's land now, isn't he?
And anyone really doing 6'3" or 4'3" low down the bill, you'd only be looking at 4 to 6 grand, wouldn't you? That's like, without a GB pedigree, that's what you might be looking at, 4 grand. So I don't know where he's coming from.
Well, he wants to fight in America for millions against YouTubers. So good luck to him. But when that fell through, he's now vulnerable, isn't he? Because he'll have to take out Jake Paul offers now on him, because he can't go back to Bricktop and fight Jake Paul for 30 grand. He might get iced.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing, isn't it? You've got to be really careful when you put yourself in positions. For me, there's nothing better than doing things the right way. I understand why they fast track these guys, because, you know, I said to you when we did the preview a few days ago, I says a small part of me still likes to believe it's a little bit about the sport, not 100% about the money. But it's 100% about the money, isn't it?
Of course it is, yeah. Pound notes, isn't it?
So that, and I get it. Listen, I understand it, but as I've said to you before, how much money do these guys need? How much money?
Oh, there's Joshua's set up now, isn't it? And Eddie Hearn said it's about setting generations up. But what are we supposed to be funding Joshua's future generations of families? I don't get that, mate. 27 quid I paid for it last night, and I watched it. Any listen, Saturday, I were in my element. But I begrudge paying it. I begrudge it. Do you know what I mean? Begrudge it, but what can you do? And it was a bit of a palaver. It kept cutting out, as you know.
Yeah, you had problems with
BT. Well, BT, and I've had to ring them up, and eventually there's some works broadband connections. We're having problems. We weren't bad after like 9 o'clock, but look, 27 quid's a lot of money, I think, to watch a boxing match. But when it's value, I thought it was because he got beat, didn't he?
Yeah, I thought it was a good fight. You know, it was kind of entertaining from the point that, you know, with a couple of moments of drama. I mean, I think it's one of those though. This is a caveat. Probably like most people, I haven't watched it again. Sometimes when you watch it again, it's not quite as dramatic. Like, let's just say, I mean, I don't know if this to be true or not, but the 9th round, you got the impression Usyk might be just going at some point. And if I watch it today, it might be a completely different watch. It might be like, well,
I watched it this morning and I thought, fucking hell, Usyk. Hang on, Usyk. No. Anyway, he went through gears, didn't he? He dug deep, but he went into the fire, didn't he?
Yeah.
He got his hose pipe and he put it all out the fire. I'm a firefighter. We're putting fires out. Joshua, he went in the fire and he was like, I've been here before and I didn't like it then and I don't like it now. He didn't bite down, did he?
No, he didn't. After that 9th round, he didn't bite down, and who knows? I mean, there was
what he needed, and I shouldn't say this because I'll get ripped for it. You know, when Frotch were fighting Jermaine Taylor.
Oh, yeah.
And he was behind on cards, and Taylor were a world champion 6 years after that, wasn't he? So he was still at peak of his powers. Jermaine Taylor, obviously, we're losing fight. You try everything sometimes, and you try to outbox me, it ain't working. You've just got to go for. Sometimes the will's got to be greater than the skill. You've got to bite down on that gum shield, and you just got to let them go. Have a fight. Like Peter Fury says, "What are you doing? Have a fight." He says that in gym. Have a fight. When all else fails and you're being outmaneuvered, you've got to let them go. And if you go out like that man in the mirror moment, Julian, you can look in that mirror the next day and go, "Do you know what? I did my best and I come up short." And the better man lost, and you get more respect. But what he did, when that decision happened, he went for the door, didn't he? And I don't know what happened. I've heard 2 stories. I've heard Barry Hearn got people to get him back, and I've heard Saudi security sent him back. You've got to go back, do your media commitments. And you were like, he didn't know what he was doing, did he? I saw one of his mates trying to have a word with him. And anyway, they got him back in ring, didn't they? And well, what do you think happened then?
It was just an awkward moment, wasn't it? It was. I did feel for him then. It was like a petulant child. I understand pressure and all that. I understand how passionate he is, but all fighters are passionate. Whether you lose an amateur fight, in some working man's club in Redcar, we're all passionate. We're all in there. We're all competitive. We don't like losing, and we want to do better. I understand that, but there's a moment. And people saying, look, you just got carried away. It happens. Well, that actually doesn't happen that often, does it? Fighters go, when does that happen? They've
got the platforms to fucking water this down, aren't they? Excuse my English, but they can water this down whichever way they want. But listen, Sky left them exposed. I thought Sky were going to turn it off at any second, but he ain't with them, is he? So they let
Sky were brilliant. So in terms of the speech, it went a little bit weird. And I thought, you might hear something in the next few weeks. I don't know. It just went a little bit weird. It was almost like a breakdown of sorts, or was it the mass clipping? You can call it whatever you want. But what I will say, and I want to mention Fraser Clark. So Fraser Clark's close to these guys. Okoli is 258, etc. I thought
he might not be now, though. Apparently.
Well, I don't know, but Fraser Clark was absolutely brilliant in that studio all night. The way he spoke, the way he presented himself.
I think he backtracked to end, though, Julian, a little bit.
He might have done a little bit, or he might have thought I've said a little bit too much. I understand that, but ultimately,
spoke from the heart, though, didn't he?
He spoke from the heart. He apologised on his behalf, and he was basically slagging his own team off, saying all these guys are supposed to have his back and look after him. Where were they?
Yeah, but what are you having a dig at one of them because they never turned up to training for his fight other night and stayed out?
I think they were having a dig in general, but I just thought he impressed me all night, did Fraser Clark, just the way he spoke. So I've not seen too much of him in the amateurs because I've not watched the amateurs like I used to do religiously. But I'll follow Fraser Clark just because I liked what he had to say. I liked his attitude, his demeanour, and I liked his honesty. And Ikoli was the same. Ikoli might not be the most attractive boxer, but it was, I think what happened is being on a Sky show and no longer being absolutely scripted on, on a matchroom show.
Oh, isn't it great now on Sky? It's fantastic now, isn't it? The
Sky was that, yeah. Adam Smith, you guys, whatever we've said in the past, the bias has almost gone. You've wiped the slate clean, and you and I have said this before. If we're wrong, we're wrong. If AJ would have won, we'd have still come on today, which is what we said. We'd have said, got it wrong, absolutely shocked. Sky would give some stick over the years. Sky's presentation, Sky's commentary, but more Sky's punditry last night was absolutely the best I've seen in a long time. And it was neutral. Even though you had guys who were, clear fans of AJ or friends of AJ, I thought they were neutral. They didn't feel any pressure from Matchroom and Eddie to speak a certain way. And how good was that just to watch that? It was, I absolutely loved it.
I thought they made a good team. Look, I'll give Dave Caldwell some stick on here. I've got friends of mine who really don't like him. I don't know him personally, but I thought he did all right. I don't know. I'll get stick for that, but I thought he came over all right.
You've got to be honest. You've got to say the truth. I've met Dave several times.
But I don't see him coming out with stuff like that in past when I've heard him with Eddie and stuff like that. Bias, but there were none were there last night there.
Dave was spot on. Dave's analysis was really, really good. The way he was talking about, the foot position, you're only going to get that from a guy who knows boxing and a guy who knows coaching. So we've said this before, if you nail it, if you give us what we want, and what do we want? I know the link's going to go in a minute. If you give us what we want, Russell, we'll just speak the truth. What do we want? What I said earlier.
We'll change to the next link, Julian, yeah?
Level playing field. We'll cover call up next one.